Okay, welcome to the Wednesday Wellness Power Hour for the Native Wellness Institute. Okay, Natanako Nikki. My name is Lori Newbreast. You might see the camera move a little bit. You know, sometimes we have those little technical bobbles in our life. So I won't move around too much once I get it set. So today, I guess the first thing I should say, I'm not Theta. I'm Theta's sister. I'm not Theta. She will be back next week. She's flying in the air, in an airplane, not just randomly flying in the air. So today, when I was preparing, um, sometimes I got to go like this. This is just like wellness. You make all these plans and then blip, it don't work out. So you just keep going. You just keep going with your wellness. And I had, when I was thinking about what I would share today, I came across my nostalgic t-shirt from the pandemic when the Power Hour first started in March 2020. And it was kind of a good reminder. I mean, this is what we, during that time, during that first year, we came up with these t-shirts and sent them out to all our members, people that work on the Native Wellness team. And really, we social messaged, kind of like reminders, not only for everybody who joined us on those early power hours, but also for ourselves, right? Because I think that's one thing about wellness. It's kind of like my journey's been really long. I think it even happened before my birth, because those are when I was a little kid, like I would say 4 to 5. Sometimes when things were chaotic, I would go to this tree near where we lived, and I would climb up in it. And the first thing that used to come to my child self was my dad's mom, my grandma Agnes. And so there I was sitting in a tree, a little kid, and that's the first person that would always come to my mind was my grandma Agnes in those turbulent, family times. And I really felt that even as a child that was somebody was looking out for me. And after the age of 6, my grandmother had passed away, and I still felt that. So I always feel, and I know now that as an adult, like I hear so many gatherings that I'm at, wellness and otherwise, because even politicians are praying for this in Indian country, and there's nothing wrong with being a politician. If you're out there, got all my love. But the future generations. And so we're mindful that we're somebody's living ancestor. We're the ancestors of people that maybe we'll get to meet. Maybe we will help them in a way from when we make our spiritual journey. But really that thought, that prayer, that intention, for the future generations, that's an action of wellness. And really, that's what I was thinking about today. Like, I've lived through, other people trying to, when they look at our community sometimes, or take our picture. It's tourist season here, so they'll snap a secret picture of you. Like, it's really weird, but that's okay. Kind of. It's kind of like they don't know how to be a fan of Indian country yet. So, but I was thinking about all those kind of wellness teachings that I have come to practice because I like to tell, this comes from actually the traditional teachings I learned around using the healing earth medicines and the other healing practices that, are in ceremony or through cultural ways of being and daily when you see another member. I'm lucky to live where I do. Like, I feel really grateful because even if we don't stop and talk, people wave. Like, we wave in hello, I'm happy to see you on the road, as we're both clicking 80 miles an hour down our road. But there is this acknowledgement. So to be acknowledged with something that in a cultural practice of wellness, you acknowledge people that are in front of you, that are in your thoughts or your mind, and even people you don't know, and the future generations. So, but I like to tell people I experiment on myself. I test drive. My wellness is, if you want to say, is indigenously organic. Because this is what I learned from my spiritual teachers, but also the healers that I had privilege to go out on the land and gather for. That was a part of my life, and they would always, kind of set an intention with me when they made a request. And so the whole time that I was out there, I was thinking about their request, but I was also thinking about how gifted I would always feel so just really good that I was out there. Like, even when it was like hard work or sweaty work, or I came home with, little scratches and stuff that I didn't intend, it was that commitment to then share what I was taught in the way I was taught. But to really always, so one of them told me, when they'd share things, they'd say, oh, I try it out on myself. And so that's what I do with some of the wellness techniques that I've learned along the way from many teachers from different cultures, but also really the ancestors' teachings about, like making offerings, establishing a relationship with the land, with the plants, with other people. How do the medicines help us be better, human beings in our part in, like living on Earth? So I test drive things, I'd say, on myself. So, but I've been sitting in gatherings for a long time. And you can always tell when it's a native wellness gathering or some of the other organizations that, believe in movement, cultural movement, dance, singing, being physically active, like integrating everything in, not just in your spirit or in your mental or in your head, but also in your heart, but in your body. So I was reminded at a gathering last week when really some of the grandmothers of the modern wellness movement in up in Alaska, they also had connections. They knew people from my community because there were trailblazers in the 1970s and 80s where they knew that we didn't have to live this way. But at the, Indians are fun. If we must teach people how to be, to have a good time, to believe in laughter as medicine, to really, it's okay to dance and heal and be well, So anyway, they were doing the electric slide, and it was with some people that I hope now are allies. So they were doing the electric slide where this non-native band was performing. And I just really appreciated those elders getting up there and busting a move and, showing their style and really their swagger, because they still had it. But that's really also one of the things that for me has been very healing to participate as culturally as a dancer. And I've heard also at many gatherings, they'll say, I'm dancing for those who can't. Like there's always an intention when we enter our wellness journey. You know, for some people, it's that they know they'll hear something and they decide, well, my healing begins with me. And I think that that's an early saying that still today I tell myself sometimes, and when I'm questioning or if I have an experience that, makes you feel somehow and you kind of go. And so I always tell myself again that, my wellness begins with me. It's my intentions, my practices, really how I move in the world. So in wellness, like moving is important. And sometimes like if it's physical movement, but maybe like sometimes it's, the messages that are put here and they just stop the connection. Some people call that, and if you've attended any wellness trainings, we talk a lot about like where there's trauma, healing is the answer. And we really mean that. We really mean that. But we also like give words to the things that we want to change. And so like when there's lateral oppression or ongoing oppression, that is also, what do you do in those moments to regather? Because sometimes it can be a shock. So for me, in those moments, I always say, I'm going to offer up my wellness to them. And it puts my mind already, it gives my mind a way to stop focusing on what didn't work or what made me feel somehow. And it switches me towards those solutions that one of my teachers, he would say, all solutions are spiritual. And so to contemplate that and to think about that, that's really what, when I hear something, even in our training or, people that love to study us, and we love to study us, we're interesting. I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. That's not bragging. We come from vibrant ancestors, and we are the living generation. We are vibrant, creative, intelligent, beautiful people. And we know we got things that are challenges in our community. So sometimes in trainings, I go, oh no, here they go. I'll hear somebody, here they go down that road again. And so I was playing around with really some of the, looking how we can advance the language, or not advance, we can enrich the language of wellness. So the concept of, sometimes I see this now, people say it too, where there's lateral oppression, lateral kindness is what we're striving for. And then those ACEs experience, I'm not talking about poker, but those ACEs, the adverse childhood experience, syndromes scale, I think, or in my body, in my heart, I know that we must look at the adverse colonial experiences scale for each of our individual communities, but also for our lives. Like I met one of the members, I was so happy to see her, when I was coming home in the airport. Just to see somebody's face from home when, you haven't seen a relative for a while. And we ended up talking about blood quantum. So, but in that moment, it wasn't about that. what we were trying to do was use our ancestral cultural experience, which is also stories. So which also spells out ACEs. We were talking about ways that we brought in new family members in times of strife, in times of hardship, in good times. And I come from a culture where a lot of our original gifts from our ceremonies, our sacred items, our ways of being, they came from children that were, not to use it, like to use a description, that were set aside for some reason. They came from children that didn't have parents in their life. And so every time I reflect on those kind of things, so like if I hear that adverse childhood experience, I think, well, adverse colonial experience, but I also think ancestral cultural experiences and systems. So in my wellness, on my journey, but also really in thinking about that concept about how do I get my well on, I re-engage with the land or any land that I'm at. I think about the people, the ancestors of that land. I think about the dirt under the beneath the airport or beneath the shopping mall. And yesterday I was just south of where I live, and for the Piikani people that I come from, that was our traditional crossing at Big Giant Springs in Great Falls, Montana. And so they were talking about that city based on their very short experience of living here. And it was interesting because when I always go to Great Falls, I think about that was our traditional crossing. That's our traditional homeland. Those teachings come alive when I look at the land. And in the wellness journey, or the healing journey, however you want to describe it in English, there's that portion where you begin to discover your ancestral teachings. And maybe it's being welcoming into another indigenous community and learning theirs, getting that comfort, getting that nurturing that comes from being in a community that thinks and moves collectively. This morning when I was looking outside, we have a couple of markers going on, and it's happening all over the country. When kids go back to school, it sets us in another rhythm. But also when I looked outside this morning, I see on the cottonwood, some of them were turning yellow. And we've had thunderstorms and rain, and, pretty much for a week at certain times of day. And so we have had a lot of moisture. And so those leaves turning are indications that I also prepare. And there are things that I'm excited about, going to happen in the community. I absolutely love when the fall heavy winds come and everything is still kind of green, but they're cold, and they're preparing us in a way like the wind is medicine. It prepares you, like your whole spirit, in a way to move forward and become prepared. And that's usually, sometimes people will have their moment, especially if you experience the change of seasons. But where we're at, we're all experiencing, some changes. And so this morning when I was out there, I just was looking, just not doing anything, just looking. I didn't record it. I didn't post it. I put it in here and in here. And I think that's one of the things that I am grateful for, like today, is that I can actually feel gratitude. Like I feel it everywhere, and I feel it in my spirit. I feel it in my house. And like right before I came on here, I had been doing other things. So I lit a smudge because I trust the medicines. I need them from the earth. And sometimes when I have those moments where I'm like, okay, I gotta switch gears, refocus, or I want what maybe didn't work and I experienced outside my home. I want my home to be safe. So I also use the medicines for that, to clear out my house. And when I stay in a hotel room, is there an Indian alive that hasn't stayed in a hotel room? Anyway, that leads to another joke. One time when I realized there's a whole generation of indigenous children that were born after the casino buffet. So anyway, that goes on to a whole other thing. But when I'm really like focusing on like making my camp, no matter where it is, hotel room, my house here at home, or maybe I'm staying with somebody, I always use the medicines to prepare where I'm going to sleep. And for me, I always carry a pistacan or tobacco, and I prepare those places. And the few times that I haven't had that at my disposal for one reason, like I gave it all away, or it was packed in something that didn't arrive with me, you can also use sound and clapping your hands. Can compare your place wherever you are, brushing off like maybe your pillow. You can say through prayer, this is a safe space for me to sleep and to dream. And so that's really important. I think that to recognize that we now have at disposal the next generation practicing what the past generations, the knowledge that they left us about the earth medicines, but also all the other healing aspects of our culture: song, language, movement, colors, taste, food, and you can start your own list. So one of the intentions that I set for myself this year that I learned from my mom was how we prepare dry meat. And I heard another tribe call it, oh yeah, you guys air dry it. And I was like, what? but I guess, yeah, I did think about it. I was like, yeah, you could say that, like, oh, you air dry your meat. And I was like, I had never heard of it, because we say hang dry meat. We're drying dry meat. But they said you air dry it. So that either English description works. So I set my intentions also through those practices that I enjoy. So that's one of the things that, I tell myself, I'm going to get ready. I got to get other things to be prepared for when the meat comes. And so I think I feel right now, I think and feel, so I'm integrated, eh? Not like somebody, like when they segregate, then they integrate. No, not like that. Like I'm indigenously integrated. So I really like to to see how I can, those words that describe us, like indigenous people, as a symptom to be fixed, or they want us to focus on what's not working. Excuse me, is there an Indian alive that doesn't know the things we need to fix? Just go on Facebook. that's all there, right? So I like to turn that language into the things I see are working and solutions people are working on. Like when gatherings are opened with the earth medicines, with the smudges, even if they are present, even if you can't light them, if they're open with acknowledging the beauty of water and you have a glass of water, like in a conference room, or you put out a glass of water in your hotel room before you sleep, you're acknowledging and setting in motion a practice older than any state we live in now, older than the internet in that time, where our ancestors did those same things. So you're reconnecting to like that eternal thread of connection, energy connection between all the generations and all the people that have walked on. Look at even the little insect came by just to say, what about us? So when we say or we talk about using the medicines, and I see them practiced, I see them used. I haven't seen anybody in the White House smudge, but that'd be my dream. I'm putting it out there. Maybe they start the congressional session with, smudge it out, for us in the US. So, but the practice of using those things strengthens all of us. So if you use it, you're strengthening everybody in your family, your community, because that's how we're going to have solutions to those things that they would rather keep describing. Problems, social determinants of health, the ACEs scores. Yes, those are real. And we can learn and strategize how we move beyond those. So in wellness, I think some of the use of language, like now I go to other communities and they'll, like it's a practice of Native wellness. Yeah, we'll role model, but the community's strengths is what brought us there. And so you will see many communities, they already have that part of the agenda covered. They've already now, this is our home, we're going to show our way. And that's really a beautiful thing to see, that the respect between cultures. Because I see that in a lot of wellness gatherings and other gatherings where tribes respect each other. And we're seeing that some of the bigotry or the competition came from a time of scarcity that we all endured. And then the systematic oppression, right? And those systems that made us in a hierarchy adopt behavior that hurts all of us. So I can see a growing, I guess this is kind of like my wellness witness statement to the universe and to you, is I see that intertribal respect growing and acknowledging, when you're on another person's land. I mean, the allies, yeah, they should do that land acknowledgement. First, they always kind of look like deer in headlights, but they get over that because we travel to other people's homeland and to respect what their traditions are and to really honor them. Because I grew up with stories how other tribes would come to our territory like at ceremonial time, and they knew when our ceremonies were happening, and they would be the witnesses to our ceremonies. But they were themselves. And we traveled to other communities, so there was intertribal cooperative relationships. But when the time of scarcity and oppression and violence and separation started to, touch our communities, there was a change in relationships. So one of the like really beautiful things that I see going on is people talking again about the traditional trading centers on the land, and they existed all over. And there's a place south of Great Falls, Montana. I'm trying to think what they call it on the map. It's below Kings Mountain, and they call it White Sulphur Springs. That whole area was jointly used for healing by many, many nations. So they came there to heal in the waters, to that very holy place on earth. And there were other sacred sites that were in other people's territory, but there were also those places where you had visitors and you had company. That's how I like to look at it. And so I can see that when I travel. You know, when people raise their flags, like, you know, if you're at a powwow, or you'll see where, like at huge intertribal gatherings, there's usually some discussion and then a consensus of how to open up and to honor our ancestors, to honor all our cultures. And so I see that intertribal cooperation starting to grow. And that is an action of wellness and healing. That is a visible thing you can experience. But we still have ways to go. And so I was really thinking about and these are some of the questions that I thought, you know, I asked myself, so I'll share them with you. How am I tending to my spirit today? Because there's so many, you know, if you get on your emails or you even get on social media, there's so much coming at you. But I ask myself that often in the morning. How am I tending to my spirit today? It's okay to take a pause and fluff up your spirit. You know, I love the presence of positive and really like rich sharings that are on, you know, on the internet, not just on free social media. Is it really free? Anyway, but you know, on the YouTube, like there's people now that, so we've learned and starting to master this new technology. And we're going through those ethical questions about what do we show and what do we not show. Because part of healing that is collectively something that we are doing is reinstituting boundaries. And really, also that means like personal boundaries. That some of the I don't want to say, the practices of traditional healing are that you don't become the symptom, you are healed from it. Like that's how the earth medicines work. They work to rebalance you, but you're not the symptom. You're not chronic. You're not, you know, no indigenous person is chronic. I'm just going to say that right now. So when we are practicing living our everyday lives, so that's a question that I tell myself too, because sometimes like when I move from like a really super positive indigenous, you know, 90% of the faces that I see and I'm around are indigenous, and then I go to meet the other cultures. It's not bad, but that's modern life. There's always a longing that I go with to see all those faces again. And so I practice things like, how am I going to take care of my spirit today? So I've learned, you know, like when I was part of a group that went to a museum where the subsurface archives contained the ancestors' remains. there's a practice and a teaching that I had received in earlier in my life, and in our group, somebody brought a bag of sage so that we lined all our moccasins, and so that any ill intention that had resulted in those archives being established, we didn't absorb. And so there are even practices like that, like, taking care of your feet, taking care of your body, so that as you're moving through these experiences, you stay authentically yourself and you stay balanced, because sometimes it's a challenge in the world we live in. So I was thinking about that, the practice of wellness. And then I've also heard, and seeing now people sharing openly how they take care of their spirit as they navigate through the world. Many people carry special, things with them. They'll carry the earth medicines. I'd like to say it is my intention and responsibility to myself. This is like one of my boundaries is I need those medicines, because that's what they were gifted for, to help us navigate, to be the best human we could through the universe. And so I need them. I need to have those teachings, and but there's also another principle that sometimes I have to pause and think about my boundaries, my ethics, the things that are to be shared that can help somebody, but to recognize that they're also on their own journey to, it's their choice to carry medicines, to learn more about them. So there's again, those boundaries are part of wellness. So even in the act of generosity, of sharing, I always tell people too, sometimes especially if it's not from their community, that was part of my teachings, where I gathered things that didn't grow in other places, and I brought them there because they had requested them. So I appreciate that knowledge that they knew what earth medicines grew where I was from, and that I could get them for them. Just to appreciate that type of intelligence that the cultures have and knowledge about each other, but it was through respect. So they would ask me, they would gift me, they would make a request of me, and then I would get it. I would go out and do what I was taught and then gift it back. That's kind of how it works, right? Generosity, I love the saying, one of the grandmothers, the Anishinaabe grandmothers, Mary Jane, said this to me, is, a gift is not a gift till you give it away. And so I was a much younger person. So I always felt happy. I guess I didn't know how happy I would feel when I completed that request. I always felt happiness, and I feel happiness when I see, also when I'm a witness to generosity. And sometimes I see miracles happening every day, somebody who spends many hours and their intention is to bring all this stuff to a gathering and then to gift people. And you can just see people come alive, when it's a cultural gift or anything, even a Walmart card, or a Target, wait, I gotta put up my finger, a Target card, gift card. Just to be acknowledged with the gift is it's a beautiful moment. So in wellness, I have gratitude for being a witness to that. And I also wanted to reflect that I've seen a lot of passages of people who really pushed the needle wherever they went, so that we could experience more comfort when we arrived. So some of them call them elders, some of them call them, early warriors, or the warriors who passed on. But they were human beings just like us. So I feel encouraged that that's inside of all of us. But I had a moment of, I think of things as like hoops and circles. So I had a moment of like awareness in my hoop journey right now, where people who have made their passages, I heard their names again from other people who knew them when they were young. And so to know that they were also part of that change, it's like it's still happening. That living gift of the intergenerational gift giving from, I knew that person, I was part of that group. And so to hear the names of people that have made their spiritual passage journey to the other side of the veil, or, the other side of the buckskin, it gives me that feeling of connectedness. The same thing when I use a smudge, when I prepare my hotel room for a good sleep. It's tapping into that energetic connection that our ancestors have, that we're connected to them. And that's how I know I belong to something. That feeling of belonging. Not just with my, with my traditional name, or with my DNA or any of that. I know I belong to that intergenerational, energetic, ancestral connection. I need to put that on a t-shirt. Get your well on, get your intergalactic ancestor. Like, I can see it anyway. There'll be another time they let me on this Wellness Wednesday Power Hour. But really, those connections, those moments when you belong. And so I guess that's part of my report on wellness right now, is I see those. I get to witness those. I get to hear them. The passage of the early warriors who, sometimes they walk to the point of decision making that can impact all of Indian country. They literally walk there and bring the list of demands of, nope, we ain't going to take this no more. This is our boundary. You did what you did, and nope, no more. And then I also had an experience where it's almost like it reminded me of a dream that I had, and it still has to remain out there. But I was reminded of a dream time of hearing a panel of elders talk about the boarding school, their boarding school experience. And to understand that over the generations, the intergenerational boarding school experience changed. And where they are at today, it's still the same history. You can't silence the story from before with the current condition. And I think sometimes that's what happens in wellness when people, it's an indicator more that we have to keep talking in a mindful way in safe spaces, so that we nurture the wisdom that is going to come out of this time towards a solution. So I felt a shift when I was hearing these really like little warriors, because it was more like hearing little kids, wise little kids, speak about what happened to them. And in our community, the voice of the child, that only became super regulated after, as oppression started to take hold. Like, children have the same human rights as we all do. They have the right to physical safety. They have the right to their dreams, to their identity, to their voice matters in the circle. And so I seen a synergetic moment of where, yes, those folks had walked long on this earth, all of them more than 50, 60, 70 years. But what I heard was the truth of children. And there's also a part where I've asked this question. So I'm currently on a quest. So if you have the answer, please free stream it. Do it live on your channel, on your Facebook. What is the rite of passage for an elder? So let's say you are now no longer a parent actively. So what is that rite of passage for an elder? Because just like children have full human rights, so do elders. So does everybody in between. So if we start thinking, again, I've heard that term now, intergenerational, but that term also was used in those original trailblazers of wellness in the 70s and 80s, and even before that. They talked about everybody together. And through the experiences I've been gifted in my culture, in my life experience, but an elder who's still living said, when we think as one mind, that's how we move. That's how we shift. And we're going to get there again. So if we think intergenerationally and nobody's rights are kind of like qualified because they're under this age or they're over this age or they haven't done this or they haven't done that, if we think the whole generations all have those basic human rights in our community of safety, then what we're going to have is ancestral community experience where wellness is going to be what we're all striving for, even if we have challenges. And I would say, I believe, or yes, there's a lot of challenges, but there's a lot of strength. There's a lot of things that are being cultivated, the seeds have been planted for now a couple generations, and there are solutions starting to appear. And people are understanding that you have to go into action. And so I that's a moment of gratitude that I've had where I see communities shift. And some of them, they're not waiting for the 5-year grant cycle for the funds. They're just doing it, and then the funds come. Or they do it, and it doesn't matter. It gets done. That kind of rhymed. So I think those thoughts of that we were, I would say, and I say we because I feel this in my bloodline. So my family, we. Now my grandparents were thinking that the people before them, the generations before them, they wanted the same thing. They wanted our well-being. They wanted us to be free to be who we are, to make that choice, bringing our spirit to the circle with the gifts that only we're given to connect everybody. And so I just have a moment of appreciation where wellness is at. And I was just thinking about all the people that I interacted with, like if I could just say in the last week, not only did they come together for a synergetic wellness moment, but also they all left and they were working for healing and for wellness and for their communities they came from. So it's kind of like you think about like a seed comes up and then the flowers, form. And then when the flowers have done what they needed to, their seeds are carried. Those seeds go out. And the other thing I've learned from many teachers, but also from my own self-wisdom, some people call it self-care, but I kind of like, everybody knows you need an oil change on your car. If you don't, even the new cars still need an oil change. I always check in with myself at certain times of the year. I make mindful appointments to check in with myself. Let's see how you're doing. Let me lift the hood. What do you need to do? Do you need to go visit somebody to, maybe to fluff you up? How do you refill? How do you refill your spirit? So not just how do you care for it on a daily basis, how do you restore yourself? And for some people, it's taking a daily thing, like they do it daily. But we're human beings, and gatherings and going out and being in real life with people, smelling other people, if you want to say, that's important too, as part of self-care. It isn't just all about, it is about grooming, but it's more than that. It's about how are you nurturing those people around you, those circles, those communities. I love some of the stuff that happens on, on the using social media or the internet to connect people. So some people connect in groups. They form groups, and maybe they'll meet again once or twice a year or every 2 years, but they stay connected intentionally because those are their circles that nurture them. And I guess one of the pieces of wisdom that I see it ebbs and flows through the wellness movement, I've seen it through a lot of iterations. It's okay to not try to change somebody so they treat you better. Because all you have to have is a boundary. Nope. It can be from anything. No, I am no longer going to let that person take my lunch, kind of thing. It could be that. Or, no, that person now, this is the 5th time. So boundaries are okay. You don't have to teach people how to behave. But boundaries keep you safe and also give you that space to be nurtured. And so boundaries are something that people, it's not like a fence, a fence is from another culture. A boundary is part of the acknowledgement of the spirit of the other person who has those full human spiritual right to be who they are. And that includes you. So it's like that saying, let it begin with me. And it means that the me is you. You matter. You deserve nurturing. You deserve respect. You don't have to earn it. That's the one thing that I was like, you hear a lot, even on TV shows and stuff. You got to earn my respect. Excuse me, no. That's how I was tell they're not in this sweet to be. Respect wasn't a commodity. It was part of the acknowledgement of the spirit of the other living being. And life is given by the Creator. So it's like it's kind of like once you go down that flow, it's kind of like, So everybody deserves to set boundaries, to protect, to nurture, to celebrate who they are. And that's a function of a boundary. But in wellness, it's the good thing about it is I like to see all. There was this earlier story that they used to tell, the Kaufman family, about the coyote, where when the coyote got learned its lesson and maybe it was laying on the ground, that somebody would come and fluff it back up by jumping over it 4 times and then lifting it back up. And so if you feel weary, maybe you're having trouble sleeping, maybe you've stayed at home too long, stayed in the house too long, take yourself outside, even like this. Come on, self, let's go. Because sometimes you have to be your nurturing best friend. And that's also what, in my mind, falls under wellness, self-care. Nurture yourself. Give yourself a hug. 20 seconds. Work up to 20 seconds. You can start with 2. I'm not, I'll give myself, and don't do it while you're driving because, that's not safe. So in the Wednesday Wellness Power Hour, I just want to give, today I was really grateful when I found this shirt packed away and it doesn't have holes in it. Some of my my Power Hour shirts have holes in them, but this one didn't. But it was a reminder of, shoot, the last 4+ years, look at wellness is in a different place. We went through a shift. And the place we're at in right now is very beautiful. And it's when we gather that we all show our beauty. And we're just making a difference in our communities, in our circles. So keep doing what you're doing. We're going to get there and the solutions are going to come. Because that's what happens when our spirits are really free and seen, and we get to move in an authentic way. And we got that ancestral, energetic connection. It's right there for us to tap into when we need to power up. So thank you for joining me today. I'm just grateful for each and every one of you. And if no one's told you today, I love you. And I do mean you. Take care of yourself, and I hope that the 4 winds and the Creator and all the ancestors and all the magic and all the per diem and all the tickets bring us together again sometime. So take care and have a beautiful rest of your day.